Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. That's right, folks. Today is Sunday, and we've got a very special announcement for you today, folks. That's right. We're actually going to be making a very, very bold statement and decision today, and that decision is that we are doubling down on vintage silver to be exact. And what do I mean by doubling down? Do I mean, hey, we're going to go out and buy twice as much silver as we were before? No, that's not exactly what I mean by us doubling down on silver. But let me tell you exactly what I mean. Now, here on the silverbarstacker.com website, many of you are aware, in fact, we talked about it on the channel last week, actually. I was kind of talking about some of the SBS Silver Bar Stacker curated bins that we have available on the website. Now, these bins are kind of like, just as a recap for those who may not have been there or may have forgotten, basically what these SBS curated bins are, they're our version of a random design bin, right? So you know how like on any Bullion store, when you go and you purchase a random design or random year listing of something, you don't know what you're going to get. They generally give you whatever they probably have a lot of in stock, or they just give you whatever's the cheapest or whatever. And the trade-off is that you're buying that at kind of the lowest unit cost available, you know, either online at that time or at least on that store at that time. So these random design, random year listings, these are something that many stores do to entice their customers to buy, you know, save a couple bucks and help them simultaneously liquidate some of the things that they're trying to liquidate. Now, we don't generally have things that we're trying to liquidate at any given time, but we have things that we have more of than others. Like, you know, like here you see a couple of these particular bars, we got a couple of those in stock, right? So sometimes you got duplicates of something, and so sometimes you get a better unit cost on other things as well. And so sometimes whatever store you are, any store has their different margins, they have their different way of running things, and they generally have their cost basis on their items that they are selling, right? And then they have their different margins that they're working with based off of different various factors, right? Now, that cost basis can vary, right? And so, you know, we may have this bar here at a certain price, at a certain cost base, and we're able to offer at a certain price based off the circumstances. And then you might find some other store that might also have that available, but maybe it might be at a higher price. Or maybe they're not somebody who kind of specializes in them. Maybe they don't even know that, hey, this is a 5,000 minted bar, and so they might just be getting rid of it for crazy cheap at a price that we would never be able to give it up for, because we don't buy it even for that cheap. Right, so sometimes that differs, right? But all I'm trying to say is that generally when you're being a buyer and you're trying to save a couple bucks, these random design, random year listings can be a good way to help the bottom line, right? You can save a couple bucks off the premium if you go for those cheaper options, right? So these SBS curated bins that we have on the website, just let me show you kind of what they are on the website. These allow you to save a couple bucks on the premium, maybe get something for $32.50 an ounce, $70 an ounce, or $95 an ounce. That seems like a lot, actually, and we'll get into why that's so expensive. But these are our random design. If you wanted to put it in quotations, these are our random design, or our dealer's choice, or our, you know, you don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get an ounce of silver kind of listings, right? And so we have cheaper options and we have more expensive options, and those kind of vary. You know, what you're going to get for that more expensive option is going to differ compared to what you're going to get for the cheapest option. Now, when I was talking about our options for our random design listings last week, I was talking about how we had 3 different options, and that remains to be true even to this day. But we've made a slight and quite a drastic modification for our 3 available random design listings. Now, last week when I was talking to you about our random design listings, we had 3 different tiers, right? We had one very cheap one, then we had another pretty cheap one, and then we had one very expensive one, right? And so the way that worked before was we kind of had what we called our premium junk listing, and our premium junk listing would provide you with something maybe like, you know, a maple, an American silver eagle, maybe a Chinese panda. So things like that, you would end up getting some sort of a, you know, nice thing, but not necessarily vintage. I mean, somebody might even argue that, hey, this factory sealed maple is from 1999, so technically it's before 2000, so maybe it's vintage. Or hey, this panda is from 1990, so, you know, I kind of consider stuff from the early 90s as vintage. So some might argue that this stuff is vintage, but you know, I draw a hard line between like legal tender coins and generic buffaloes and stuff like that in comparison to vintage, right? A prospector round to me is never, ever, 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 ever going to be the same thing or comparable to American Silver Eagle. And I know that that's weird to people right now. Maybe that's very weird to people, because right now the mentality, I would say, for the general public is that this is a more valuable thing than this. And I think that might even hold true for a while, but for me, I'm sorry, I'm running a vintage store. This is much more valuable to me than this. I don't really generally care what the general public thinks, because for me, as far as I'm concerned, this is much more valuable to me. I don't care that this has legal tender backing of $1, which I'm never going to cash it in for. Okay? I care that this is a 75,000 minted round, and this is a coin that is minted in the millions every year. Okay? And I care that this was only minted across 6 years, and this was minted across many and is still being produced today. So to me, the legal tender backing of $1 is completely insignificant and kind of a gimmick to me, because I'm not really ever going to cash it in for that dollar. And to me, this is much more valuable and much more scarce, right? And so for me, I value this higher. You know, I know you can probably get these sometimes if you're lucky at the LCS for under 30 bucks. But for us, I think a random design, I don't know what the random design listing is, but it's probably about 35 bucks for a random year prospector. And if you're trying to get a specific date, it's probably going to be more expensive than that on our website. And generally, like, if you're trying to buy these prospector rounds, they go for 35. That's the going rate for these. And I don't know, I guess the premiums actually have gone down. Maybe people are catching on, and because these used to cost 40. You know, these used to cost 40, and I think you can pretty easily get these for 30 or even possibly less now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the eye is in the beholder there, right? But for us, this was our lowest tier. For us, things like this, things like this was our lowest tier offering that we had on the website. And the reason I'm saying is because we've made actually a drastic shift. Before, what we had was we had a premium junk listing, and basically what this was this was the cheapest thing that we had. Last week we had it priced at $32.50 an ounce. Many people availed of that. Many people actually like the premium junk listing, and so that's why I'm hoping I'm making the right decision of discontinuing the premium junk listing. And I'll tell you why I'm doing that and what it's going to be kind of turning into now, or what it has turned into already. Okay, because I've already made these changes on the website, and now I'm kind of just walking you through the changes that I made and explaining to you why I made them. Right, because this was a popular listing. We did give out some maples. In fact, the last unit that was ever purchased and will ever be purchased on the premium junk listing that we had was one of our customers, a repeat customer. He had purchased a 1 unit of the premium junk listing, and I provided him with a 1990 factory sealed maple. Or it might have been a 1999, I'm not sure. But regardless, I provided him with that, and I hope he's happy with that, because for me, I would be pretty happy getting a factory sealed backdated maple for $32.50. But the truth is that I don't generally collect that type of stuff. I mean, this is literally almost all that I have left for just kind of generic non-vintage stuff. And so I was thinking very hard, like, I'm not restocking this ever. The reason I don't have this type of stuff is because I don't collect this. I got most of this stuff as part of a collection that I bought out, which was mostly vintage, right? But then a couple cool random things like this, right? So I have cool maples and eagles and pandas and stupid stuff, or I had. And through the premium junk listing, which was very popular, we sold through a lot of that. And so now I'm thinking, okay, we've got a very, very large inventory here on the silverbarstacker.com website of what? Vintage, right? What do we specialize in? Vintage. Like our friends here at Double Diamond, they specialize in vintage as well. So since we specialize in vintage, why would we have a generic offering in the first place? Yes, it's popular, but individuals can go anywhere and purchase their generics. You could go on any of the big stores. You could probably honestly get a better price than the $32.50 that we were offering. We weren't even offering a very good service, I would say, to the general public by saying, hey, you can buy some, legal tender coins or something at $32.50. Dude, I mean, yes, that's a great price, maybe out the door for many people, but genuinely, like, if you're a savvy stacker, maybe if you stack like 10 or 20 or something, you offset something here or there, you might be able to save yourself a few more bucks and get these for lower than $32.50. I mean, I could probably find you, if I went to my LCS, I could probably find you, they won't be backdated like this, but I would get you, maybe some fresh maples or eagles. I could probably get you them for, a little over 30 if I was just trying to, especially if I was just buying a couple tubes. I'm sure I could find that such a deal for somebody if they were looking for it. So if somebody's kind of looking for that and I need to do somebody a favor, I don't mind doing that. But honestly, truthfully, people come onto the site to find the vintage. And so what I was thinking is there wasn't a huge difference, honestly. If you recall what I was talking about my 3 random design offerings that I had last week, I had the premium junk listing, which we've gone well over what that was. It was basically non-vintage goodies, okay? And then for a couple bucks more, instead of $32.50, if you were paying $34.50, then you'd get yourself some vintage, right? Like a Prospector round or a Sunshine Mining round or an Engelhard bar or something, okay? And that was like $34.50, which is a pretty good deal, honestly, a really good deal. Because we don't have any prospectors, even random design prospectors aren't $34.50 on our website. It's more than that. So I actually thought that the vintage bin for $34.50 was a great deal, but honestly, it was not popular at all. Our most popular bins, believe it or not, were our premium junk, which is not even something we specialize in, but it was the cheapest thing by a couple bucks. So it was quite popular because of that. I think because of that. Okay, it's not because people wanted to be stacking maples, it's because they wanted to save the extra $2, right? And then, believe it or not, but our rare vintage bin was extremely popular. We sold this to multiple people. Actually, more people bought the rare vintage bin than actually the premium junk bin, believe it or not. It just is what it is. So I find that crazy because we've always had this priced around $100 an ounce. Right now, I think it's $95 an ounce. Well, we've always had it priced around $100 an ounce, and people buy them. People buy multiple units at a time. And so I'm not planning to get rid of this because this is also a very popular thing, okay? And people like this, and I'm certainly not going to probably increase the price unless it can be justified. I mean, I could justify it because we have some very expensive things on our website, but I don't quite want to make a random design listing more expensive than $100 an ounce. Not yet, at least. So for now, this is priced at $95 an ounce, and you're going to get some really, really nice stuff there. Okay? So we're going to keep the rare vintage bin. And honestly, truthfully, even though this is not popular at all, I think the change that I've made is going to now make this a popular bin, because what I've done is instead of this being $34.50 like it was last week, I've discontinued the $32.50 premium junk bin, and I've now made the vintage bin, the normal vintage bin, our lowest tier random design option. So what does that do? That creates a rare vintage bin here. Then that creates a normal vintage bin, and instead of this being $34.50, we're going to reduce the price, at least for now, down to $32.50. So now that makes you able to get some vintage, like a Prospector round or something, for $32.50 a unit for the cheapest price. That will be the cheapest item that we have on our store. Will be the random design, will be the vintage bin, right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what was previously the premium junk bin, and I'm converting that to the premium vintage bin. You understand what I'm doing? So now instead of having some random bin with a bunch of crap junk, buffaloes and crap, well, not that I was giving anybody buffaloes, but instead of having crap, I'll liquidate this crap some other way, right? What we will do is we'll start putting some of the more rare vintage stuff, but not extremely rare vintage stuff, into the middle pile, right? And so now you've got 3 different tiers where it's kind of like, okay, you could either spend $32.50, or if you're feeling a little bit like splurging a little bit, go for the $70 an ounce bin, right? You know, you got some cheaper options, and maybe you toss something in the $70 bin. I'm not exactly sure what would be in the $70 bin. I'm just kind of guessing right now, but if you look at the prices on the site, you would kind of figure out like, oh yeah, maybe I might have a chance to get one of these kind of pieces if I go for the middle tier bin, or maybe I might be able to get one of those 5,000 minted bars if I go for the $95 an ounce bin. You know, $70 for one of these rounds. Maybe I'm not comfortable with either of those, so maybe I just roll the dice on like 5 units of 3250. Maybe I'll even get a nice 5 ounce vintage bar if I throw 5 units at the 3250 item. So you can kind of, as a buyer, you can decide. Sometimes you want to know exactly what you're getting, and so the SBS website is for you. If you're the type of person who wants to know what you're getting, stay away from these bins. These bins are for the people who want to save a couple bucks on the premium, or they just don't know what the heck they want, and they want SBS to just curate them with something really, really nice. And generally for these vintage bins, I do try to give you something really nice because I like to make people happy, right? So now what we've got is we've got a 3250 vintage bin, a $70 premium vintage bin, and a $95 rare vintage bin. Gone are the days of the premium junk bin, right? So I'm excited to introduce this new change to the website, and I hope you guys can check that out. Don't feel obligated to roll the dice on the bins. Maybe just test the waters with a smaller order or something like that. See how you feel about the whole shipping process and everything like that, and then maybe once you feel a little bit more comfortable on the site, you might want to roll the dice on one of these bins. But I would say that these bins, at least while they're priced the way that they are a very, very nice way to get some nice vintage when you're not really too picky on what it is that you're trying to pick up, right? If you're just trying to get something unique for the stack, then these are nice things to opt for. You see, you got your SBS vintage bin, $32.50. You got your SBS premium vintage bin at $70, and then you got your SBS rare vintage bin at $95. And these prices might fluctuate depending on how our inventory kind of changes and all that kind of stuff, and what we have available to kind of give out for these different tiers. But you will kind of notice that if you're ever kind of stumped on what to buy, the new items that we're not adding are not really tickling your fancy, and you just want, there's something that you don't have here, but you don't know what it is that you'd like to add next, then just roll the dice on one of these bins is what I would say. Now, outside of that, I wanted to say, hey, we're going to be holding, of course, our Whatnot auction probably at some point later today. So if you're following us here on whatnot.com/user/silverbarstacker, well, then you will be notified when we go live. And I generally try to put it on the Whatnot calendar maybe 30 minutes to an hour before we go live. So if you're kind of keeping an eye out on our profile and all that kind of good stuff, then you will be notified of when we go live. And generally how our auctions are working nowadays is we've kind of said bye-bye to the mystery games, and we're kind of keeping things very, very traditional and transparent and standardized, where you just kind of go in and it's a traditional auction format. And so I'll have a big table here of random stuff that we have available for this particular show, and all these items will be available as buy it now. It's actually during the show at a reduced price. So sometimes in many cases the items that you'll get will even be cheaper than we have on our silverbarstacker.com store, because we do have some markups here on the store to account for our general markup that we need, as well as some of our monthly subscribers. Our monthly subscription programs are getting very, very popular nowadays, and we're getting new subscribers, and as new people join this monthly subscription program, we will also be kind of increasing the monthly price, because we can only accommodate so many monthly subscribers and so many blanket 10, 15, and 5% off discounts. But check out the monthly subscription program if you do decide that, hey, I'm going to be regularly purchasing at least a few $100 of stuff from the SBS website. If that's the case, then generally at least the way that the monthly subscriptions are priced now, it's generally kind of a good call to opt into one of those. But like any subscription, like your Netflix subscription, if you're not watching Netflix, then it's not worth paying for Netflix unless you're not the one paying for it, unless somebody else is paying for it for you. Then in that case, keep Netflix. Why not? Now, one last thing I wanted to do before we signed off on this fine Sunday was I wanted to mention a piece of mail that I got here from Stack That, sorry, not Stack That Gold, Stack What You Like, from Poor Man's Gold. So Poor Man's Gold, actually, I had grabbed a 1/2 ounce Sunshine Mining round here from him. I'm a very, very big fan of the fractional Sunshine Mining rounds. It's actually a product we have on our website. It's a higher premium product, actually, because you don't really see the fractional Sunshine Mining rounds too often. And so I have various years. These were actually dated just like the 1 ounce Sunshine Mining rounds. And so this one here in particular is a 1985. It's not a proof variation. It's very proof-like. It looks very proof-like. Now the proof variations, I believe there were only two proof variations, if I'm not mistaken, of the actual like proof sets, and those were 1983, 1984. And the way that you'd be able to find a proof variation would be that there would be a serial number there on the rim, actually. So you see how this has kind of a reeded edge? Well, that's common on all the rounds. All the fractional rounds and all the rounds generally will have that reeded edge, which you totally can't see because my camera is extremely blurry. But outside of the reeded edge, on the proof, you'll have a little bit of a flat section there where there will be a serial number there on the rim, actually. So let me go ahead and see if I can show you what I mean by that. You see how there's like a serial number on the edge of these 1 ounce rounds? Yeah, see, like that? Along the rim of some of these 1/2 ounce rounds and 1/4 ounce rounds, you'll have a number there that will be associated with the proof set number, right? So you got, I believe there's 1,000 proof sets possibly of the 1983 and the 1984. And let me show you what that looks like, actually. Okay. So you got your proof set here, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, not 1,000, 10,000. So there are probably 10, there were not probably, there were definitely 10,000 82 and 83 sets. So not 83 and 84. I'm so glad I checked all this before I, anyways, 82 and 83. And so there's 10,000 sets, and so these are the proof variations, actually. So this is a 5 ounce round, and then you've also got the 1/2 ounce round. I mean, sorry, the 1 ounce round, the 1/2 ounce round, and the 1/4 ounce round, and then you got that little nugget there. So on these proofs, you'll see that on the edge of these, the rim of these, it'll be marked with 3782 to be associated with this proof set. Okay. Now, I don't believe that there are any proof sets any other years, so there are not going to be any 1985 1/2 ounce proofs. There's not going to be any 1984 1/2 ounce proofs. Those are all just going to be standard rounds. So, like I said on the Silver Bar Stacker website, you know, we don't have a huge stock of these 1/2 ounce rounds, and they come at quite the premium, let me tell you. So they cost much more than a 1 ounce round. We'll just put it that way. That I can get, I get these for more than I get 1 ounce Sunshine Mining vintage rounds for. And because of that, that's why our random design 1/2 ounce Sunshine Mining round listing is more expensive than the random design random year Sunshine Mining 1 ounce round listing. It's crazy, but that's the truth. And so it's very difficult to find these 1/2 ounce Sunshine Mining rounds, and so I was able to pick one up from Poor Man's Gold, and so I had to, right? I had to do it. So this we've got available on the site if anybody's interested in picking one up. Maybe you won't get the one that PMG sent me, but you will definitely get yourself a random year fractional Sunshine Mining round. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I know it was kind of quite a very long video. Damn, we're almost into 25 minutes. So I could have probably made this shorter, but I wasn't very concise today. So apologies for that, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Cheers.